Welcome to the Release Your Blocks podcast. I am your host, Victoria Bond. I am a spiritual empowerment coach. I help teach others to show up to their potency so they can fulfill their mission here on earth. I'm so glad you are here. And if you are interested in becoming a medium, if you're interested in becoming a life coach, or if you're interested in shifting your life from the 3D to live more in the 5D reality, then check me out, book a clarity call, and let's get chatting. Hey everybody, and welcome to the Release Your Blocks podcast with Victoria Bond. We've got a very special guest, Glenyce Hughes. Welcome to the podcast.
Yay, thank you so much. I am so grateful to be here.
Oh, we are so grateful to have you here because the clearings and the beautiful joy and the expression and the boldness and the potency that you bring to this world is life-changing. So I just want to take a moment to honor you on that and say thank you for being the change in the world and inviting other people to do that. Incredible, absolutely incredible. So this is a deep honor. And you have your own little radio show, not little because it's very potent. You've got your own, what we call a TV show that people can access from your website, all in the show notes below, guys. And also you are an Access Consciousness certified facilitator, bringing your own uniqueness to that as well with your teachings, your coachings and all the things. So is there anything else that you want to add to that?
Gosh, I think you covered it. I mean, there's so much, but that's probably the core pieces for sure.
Core pieces, and everybody else that you can go find you anyway and dive deep into your energy. So, small town girl, 500 and something people in your tiny wee town. You actually kind of trumped me there because we probably had like about 5,000 in my town. So I thought I was a small girl town. Big dreams. Know that you're here for a big mission, big hair. Oh my gosh, go check out her website. When you go to the about part of like, who is Glenyce, it is next level. Like it's really cool, by the way, your website. And bold makeup, okay? So your makeup is on point. I love it. I too have been a hairdresser for 20 years, love makeup. And you know, the difference between us, though, is that I didn't have the confidence that you had. You know, I'm sure you have worked on that in your life, but as a teenager, I was very much hidden behind this plain little girl dying inside. So have you always been bold and magical and desiring to share your gift?
You know, Victoria, it's so funny because if you would have talked to me back then as a teenager, I would have told you I was the shyest person in the room. And it was only like probably 10 years ago that I really looked at that and I went, because I was still calling myself shy for years and years, like, again, probably only 5 or 10 years ago that I went, wait a minute here. I don't think you can walk around with hair that's 7 inches straight up in the air and call yourself shy. But I really lived from that place. Like I really thought I was that person. I'm not that person. So it's interesting, the stories that we tell ourselves. So, I mean, I wouldn't have said I was confident. I just loved the hair. I loved it. And I mean, obviously I loved the attention it gave me because I wouldn't have done it otherwise because it gave me a lot, good, bad, and otherwise. So I'm not sure that I would define myself as confident. And there's certainly some areas that I had no confidence in. But with, I would say like hair like that, there was obviously some level of it that I had. And it wasn't, I don't know that I ever really thought like, I need to hide. Like, I don't think that was ever in my world, but I also don't think I ever really acknowledged that when you have hair like that, nobody misses you, or other things that I did along the way. Like, you know, I obviously, again, I had that desire to be seen or to be noticed, but I didn't know that's what I was doing at the time. It wasn't a cognitive thinking of, oh, I'll do this to get this. It's, I love certain things and that's, I'll do that, you know? So I see a lot of the branding colors nowadays are kind of, you know, very browns and neutral colors and natural colors. And, you know, my brand photographer, I meet up with her 4 times a year. And every time I walk in, she's like, oh yeah, I knew this would be colorful.
Exactly. And it's an expression of yourself. It's that creativity. I think that's why I probably went into hairdressing very young, because it's that creative outlet. Art was seemingly the only thing I was good at school, which is kind of interesting, because isn't it interesting how we perceive ourselves through the eyes of others, from the collective energy? And my mum used to be like, terrible speller, go get a trade, use your hands. And that's not her fault. She wasn't judging me, but I really still cannot spell. But it doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter how the external sees us. It doesn't matter how they're judging us, because they're not judging us, they're judging themselves. It's always a mirror. So I think it's absolutely fascinating, and it's really cool that you used your hair to, I'm a hairdresser, so even when I talk to spirit, I'm a psychic medium as well. So when I talk to spirit, they show me their hair every time. It's so funny. So of course, your hair stood out to me, and that self-expression, that creative, juicy kind of consciousness to bring you forward, to bring you, I suppose, more into who you are, which is so beautiful as well. So I love it. So you didn't do hairdressing? You never did hairdressing?
I did hairdressing for like a year or something. It was very short. I really enjoyed the training. Like, that's what I had always kind of wanted to be one. So I knew I needed to go do it and kind of know that I did that. And then, I did it for about a year. The gal that I trained with, so here in Canada, you go and you get the training, but then you need to apprentice. So you work under somebody for however many hours. And she really wasn't interested in training me, thank goodness, because, and I say thank goodness because otherwise I'd probably have stayed there, but she just really wanted a shampoo girl. And that wasn't enough for me. Like, I wasn't challenged at all with it. So, I didn't even finish the apprenticeship hours, and I was done. So it was very short. It gave me what I was looking for. The realization, it just isn't for me.
Yeah, 100%. And I just had to ask, because I'm like, and that actually answers my question. Like, did you do that? Of course you did. And I did that for 20 years. But the interesting thing is, when I started shifting, and I'm sure you'll resonate with this, and it's probably going to bring up something else. But when I had my children and I started waking up, right, about 5.5, 6 years ago, I went through this breakdown, also known as breakthrough. All my psychic mediumship stuff started flowing, and I thought I was going absolutely crazy. I found Access Consciousness, thank goodness. Didn't know what the hell that was. Got my bars run, and I went, okay. Boom, doors open, my life changed. I ended up teaching 50 classes, all these things. And now I'm this online spiritual empowerment coach, where hubby works me full-time in the business. We homeschool our kids. We've got a team, all within a couple of years. So it is absolutely insane how one thing leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. But once I switched off from hairdressing, I switched off. I don't even cut my husband's hair anymore. Isn't that absolutely fascinating? So it's not a walk-in. Oh, maybe I was. Who knows? But absolutely amazing how we can shift. So what does that bring up for you with, your clientele and the people that are shifting, and they're shifting and they're shifting and they're shifting and they're choosing and they're choosing and they're choosing?
Yeah. Well, the first thing it brings up, and I laughed when you said it, is that I actually, with COVID and the shutdowns and all of that was going on, I actually had to cut my husband's hair, and I hadn't done it in years. So that was really funny, because he's like, well, maybe you should just keep doing this. I'm like, no, you are going to the barber the first chance you can. One, he needs to fix what I've done. And two, I hate this. So anyway, I just had to laugh with that part, but yeah. And it is the one thing that I would say the most, whether it's in my own life or with clients that I've worked with, is there's so much in this reality of the people who want you to stay the way you were, not so much necessarily because they think that was the best way, but that's how they knew you. So as you start, you make a change like that. I'm sure even you got that when you stopped hairdressing. It's like, people don't know where to put you anymore, and they just wish you could go back because they knew where to put you in their, in their world. And that's what I see. And it can also stop people because they can start to feel that energy from people around them as they're choosing greater. And it feels like, maybe their spouse starts getting, snarky with them about something totally unrelated, or their friend doesn't want to get together anymore, stuff like that. And it pulls us potentially back to where we were, because people don't like change for the most part. Some of us are weird, like you and I, and love change, but some are not so much. And it gets really, really, really crazy with all of that. Whereas if people will just really learn to choose for them and choose what's going to create greater. And yes, people around them might not like it. They might even leave. They might even, walk away. But ultimately, if you stay for them being who you aren't anymore, you're not going to be happy. And you walking and doing what works for you and them being upset with that, I mean, that's a choice they can make, or choose to change it or whatever it is. But that's, I would say, the one thing that I see the most is that when other people around them, they're maybe comfortable with the choices or changing and stuff, but then it's all that other energy that shows up.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing with me. I had this, I say this in my podcast in the earlier episodes, I had a choice whether I lived or whether I died. And I was not going to take my body out. I was brought up Catholic, and we were taught not to abort. We were taught to marry forever, wait until you have sex before you get married. Yeah, right. How does that even work in this reality? But, we were taught all these things. I was a good Catholic girl. But at the end of the day, like when I had my breakthrough, what I called my awakening, or remembrance of who I was, and access started coming at me. And I was like, I don't even know what this is. But then I started integrating it, I said, I'm going to live. And I chose to live. And if I'm going to freaking live, I'm going to live. And that means I love change, like you, Glenyce. I love change. I'm bold. I'm kind of like shy. I was always a shy girl, but I love my own space. I love my own energy. I'm never alone. There's plenty of spirits around. But the thing is, I knew that it was not going to be comfortable for other people. I knew that my marriage might fall apart. I knew that my children were going to have a mum that did not fit into this perceived normal reality. And I knew that I was going to come out as a medium. I was going to come out as, these labels don't matter, but these labels are just for other people to understand. I was going to come out and shine really, really bright. And I was so motherfucking scared. Excuse my language, but I was so motherfucking scared. And the best thing that happened was, I dropped all attachments of who I was. I started fresh, and I said, I'm not following anyone, no gurus, no one. I'm me, and I will, receive information, and I will take it through myself and whatever I feel. My husband, he raised his vibration. He raised his level of consciousness. He joined me. My children are thriving. My sisters are mediums themselves now. My parents and I get along. Everything, after the rocky chaos, of course, it landed. And now it's not just money I make, it's joy I make, it's lives that I can contribute to, it's invitations. And, the reason why I share this, and I'm sure you're exactly the same, Glenyce, is that the bolder we are, the brighter we are, the bigger the hair, the bigger the hat, the bigger the lips. We can be whatever we want to be, bold and bright and beautiful. We can also be rich and in love. We can be in orgasmic energy. And those people who don't want us to change, that is like, they can have an invitation to change too. And they might get triggered, and they might yell at you, and they might step away. And if you hold that space of love and gratitude and integrity to be unapologetically authentic, I truly believe that is an invitation to the entire world.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really is, because there's so many people that are maybe, like you in school, where you were too shy and you were holding back, that, this becomes that invitation to somebody who goes, wow, if they're doing it, then I can too. Or they're doing that, so I could do my thing over here. And it is an invitation. And you're right. There's going to be some people that I always call it where we poke them in the eye. So some people appreciate getting poked in the eye because then they'll go and do their own thing. And some people are going to fight you because you poke them in the eye, and all of it's okay. None of it's right. None of it's wrong. It's just choices that we all have. And we've got to do it for us, or there, to me, there's no point. And I say that mostly because I lived my life prior to changing things along the way. In, kind of once I hit 30, I started studying energy and stuff like that. And prior to that, I lived my life for everybody else. That's what I was taught to do. That's what a good person does. You take care of everybody. You know what everybody needs. You make sure that they're happy. And it's just like that. That's no way to live. And I can say that from experience. I've now done both. That way is no way to live.
Yeah, maybe that's why we have to do both. Maybe we do both so we can actually know what we don't want. And that's this, divine guidance that we give ourselves and from higher consciousness and collective. We've got the collective consciousness, but we're not taught that we're all freaking connected. Like, it blows my mind that I'm always like, I'm teaching mediumship programs and helping people become more conscious with that. And it's interesting, or I'm inviting them, to open their eyes, but it's so interesting how people don't think we're connected. They think you got to be in the same room or whatever. I never see clients in the same room. It's always over the internet. It's always in groups. I don't need to be with bodies for me personally. I've got my children and my husband and my friends. But it's fascinating how people think we're so individual, and a lot of people feel loneliness, and a lot of people feel tons of stuff, but they haven't even considered, and this brings us to the who does this belong to, the question of access consciousness, is when you realize that you're so freaking psychic and aware and actually conscious, and you have superpowers, and you're not just the one body that's been, ABC 1, 2, 3, thank God, because that didn't work for me, then we can literally go, what else is possible, and who do these feelings actually belong to? The thing is, when we're teaching bars classes and stuff, or the basics of access consciousness, a lot of people dismiss it because they think it's too easy. Do you notice that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm constantly saying that in classes and sessions, and that is like, you guys won't use this because it's too easy, to try to really get them to recognize, because I did the same thing. It's like, well, if I'm having a bad day, just to ask, who does this belong to? No, I got to figure out the problem, and then I got to spin in the problem, and then I got to, and it's like, no, actually, just who does this belong to? And if it gets lighter, it's not yours. Return to sender with consciousness. So it can be that easy, but yeah, there's a lot of, and it's also the messaging we receive a lot growing up. If it's not hard, it's not going to work. If you don't have to work hard, there's no value. And it's like, actually, again, I've done both. And ease is much more of a way to live, I would say personally.
And it's those attachments that we have with when we deserve the holiday, when we deserve the money, when we deserve the acknowledgement, the love, the contributions, the receiving is huge. And I know for me, in January, I just had my biggest month in business ever. And for January, 3 weeks of that, for 2 weeks of that, I was on holiday. 2 or 3 weeks, I can't really remember, who cares, right? But I was chilled. I took myself and my human to the beach, to my little town. I stayed there without my family for a week. I hung out with friends. We ate. We went swimming 4 times a day. I had a photo shoot with my best friend. I made multiple 5 figures very, very easily, and I barely worked because everyone went, I want to work with you. I was barely online. It was insane. And I went, thank you. There's evidence again and again and again and again that joy brings you money. And it's not hiding. And it's not going, oh my God, I'm going to hustle. I hate the word hustle now, because I go make money in the bath. I go literally in the bath and I go, oh yeah, 10K, come to me, baby. And some people will be getting triggered right now listening to this. They'll be getting really angry, and they'll be like, why can't I do it? It just comes to you easily. No, it didn't come to you or I very easily, because we didn't know how until we knew how, and then we laid back.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the choices. And and the letting go of that. For me, the biggest one was really just letting go of control, I'm still not good at it, but I'm way better than I was. But that was truly the biggest part, because it was something that I really, again, was so valuable to me. The more control I had, the lie that I bought, the more control I had, the more control I had. But it was like, no, the more control I had, the more controllable I was. Because then if something didn't go the right way, or the way that I tried to control it, then it's just insane. Whereas it's like, all right, universe, show me.
Yeah. And I will be scared every time I step forward, and I will be bold, and I'll be brave, and I will know that I only have to show up because I'm already enough. And I think this is what I did, is I changed my perspective on who I was, and I realized I didn't know who the fuck I was, and I was going to drop all attachments to who I was. Yep, Victoria Bond, have a body. Okay, cool. I have children, they must be fed. Oh, sweet, they can feed themselves. Conscious parenting, boom. I've got a husband. Wow, awesome. What a contribution. And I saw what I had, and I saw the gratitude that I had for everything, including the people who triggered me, including the people who had so-called wronged me. What gift were they to me? And everything became a gift, and everything became juicy. And all of a sudden, I'm not attached to the pain so much of the world. We are obviously empaths, but I didn't make it mine. That deep pain body was, I reckon I was depressed for most of my life, to be honest. That empathic energy, the purging, like, now I'm just like, I can see this for what it is, and I flow love and gratitude and contributions, but I'm not attaching myself to that, because, like Mother Teresa always said, pro-peace, not anti-war. So, yeah, I love that so much. Love it. Let's talk a bit about your, I don't want to say your niches, because I don't want to limit anything, but let's talk about your genius, okay? Money and bodies. Oh my God, I love both of them. They are riches, aren't they? They're riches, and they're just so juicy. I've listened to a bunch of your clearing statements on money. I'm not going to lie, I've listened to them on repeat over and over and over and over and over with earbuds in while I'm sleeping. I'm like, program me with Glenyce, program me. So tell me a little bit about, why the money and the body thing, like how you've gone from where you were to where you are, and a little bit about that journey, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Not that I knew at the time, until I really started studying access consciousness. So I started my business, my healing business. My background is psychiatric nursing. So I went and studied that, did a little bit of that for years. And then I actually took a Reiki class in March of 2002. And I knew nothing about energy prior to that, like nothing. And so that really invited me to a whole different world. I started, we might call it clairvoyance in that class. Like I could see things. I didn't know at the time that's what was going on. I just thought I was daydreaming because it was visual in my head. And then about 6 months later, I started, like you, talking to dead people. So I was, the mediumship started, all of that. I played with that as a professional medium for about 10 years. And then I came across, I was always searching for something. Like I knew there was something greater. And I knew that in every area of my life. So money was part of that, and all the other areas. So I always knew that. And things were getting better for sure with all the other tools I was using. And then when I started studying access consciousness, it was just huge, the receiving part. And really, like, I probably only in the last couple of years really started getting it. So I've been using the tools of access now for 11 years. But that receiving, like being willing to receive from the sunshine, was ease for me, but not so much the rain. I didn't like that. I had points of views about that. Or although I live in Canada, I would also have points of views about the snow, which was 8 months of our year. So that's crazy. But anyway, all the places I wouldn't receive and all the things. And so with money, money is all about receiving. And so I talk about it all the time. I do all sorts of classes, all sorts of clearings, as you're well aware, all the things around receiving more money, which is really just about receiving more. And so I get now that's really the energy behind all of it, now that I have more information, but I've always known more was possible. And that includes receiving. And money and cash and wealth, those are super fun too. So also, it's not just about the receiving in that sense. It's also the money and the cash and the wealth too, and what's possible with that. So it's kind of all of that has really kind of walked with me along this journey of it. And then just in the last couple of years, I started really changing my body through talking with my body. We call it an access communing. So, letting my body choose what she wanted to eat, when she wanted to eat, what she wanted to wear and do, and all those things. And so I've drastically changed my body in the last couple of years just through that. So that's also something that's super fun for me. And it's also another level of receiving, whereas it took me a long time. So I learned about talking to my body in 2011, but it took me many years to really be able to let go of control and say, okay, what would you like to eat? Or would you like to eat? Or what would you like to wear? Or all those things that I was pretty controlling about, that I kind of started to let it go and just let my body have a voice. And so it's been an interesting journey with both of those. So the money stuff, I would say, was quicker. I was quicker with about 2014. So I'd been using the tools for a few years. And I had this habit of racking up a lot of credit card debt and then working really hard to pay it off. And then going, whew, good thing I got that done. And then I would do it over again. And finally in 2014, I sat myself down and I asked this very, very important question. So guys, this is a question you can use on anything. If you want to change anything, ask yourself, what is the value of choosing blah, blah, blah? So in my case, I asked myself, what was the value of choosing credit card debt over and over and over? And what I got the moment I asked it, which isn't always the case. So please, if you don't get a response right away or an awareness right away, that's okay. Just continue to ask it. But in this case, I got one right away. And it wasn't words, it was just the energy. I knew it was a way to entertain myself. That's what I was doing. I was bored. And by, accumulating a bunch of credit card debt, I could judge myself. And then working really hard to pay it off, I could still judge myself. And that's all I was doing. And as soon as I had that awareness, as soon as I acknowledged that's what it was, I'm like, you know what? There's enough things on the planet to entertain myself with. This stops now. And it took me probably about, 6 or 8 or 12 months, I don't even remember now, to clear it all up and be done with it ever since. It was like, no, I'm not choosing that anymore. So it's a very, very quick way to change a problem that you might be feeling like you have. What is the value of choosing it? And if you're willing to be honest with yourself, you can change anything. Because number one, we have to acknowledge we're choosing it. Most of us don't want to do that. It's like, no, it's because of this. It's because of the economy. It's because of the government. It's like, nope, we're choosing it. So acknowledge that. And then what's the value? And most people will say, well, there is no value. There's always a value. There's nothing in our life unless there isn't a value. We don't have it there. It's just not cognitive. So that's why we take a moment with ourselves. We get present with ourselves and then ask that question. And if you're honest, you'll change it. And that's where the magic is. So I changed the money stuff sooner, and then the body stuff came a little bit later. But it's this magic of the tools for sure.
Wow. And the asking a question is a game changer. I used to personally, and I notice a lot of this with my clientele, especially when they first start. I've got a program called Magnificent Mediumship. And when they first come in for those first 2 to 3 weeks, there's a lot of victim mode. There's a lot of mind chatter. There's a lot of not sleep. Obviously, there's a lot of entities that I work on in the background. And I teach them how to do that also. But the thing is, I used to be that person who I remember clearly thinking when I was 15 years old, when I was crying and purging, like as in like just hooting and howling, crying and screaming into my pillow. I hate life. Thought every 15-year-old did that. Apparently they don't. But I was feeling the pain body of everybody else. I remember distinctively saying, as long as everybody else is okay, it doesn't matter if I feel this pain. I remember, like, I'm going back like 20 years ago, right? Actually longer. But I remember doing that and I went, oh my God. And now I think back and I go, you poor little girl. Yes, we're infinite beings, but you poor little girl, you just need a mama to give you a cuddle and be like, you know what? Not yours, sweetheart. Imagine if we had that. Not yours, sweetheart.
Yes. Yeah.
But of course.
And how cool it will be that your kids will have that, right? So your kids have that, and then they can take that to their kids, and then their kids will have, like, and then it's normal.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what I'm most excited about, because there's a lot of people that are, parenting with these tools, which then that's normal to these kids. And then that'll be normal to their kids, and it'll just be normal, whatever normal is, but it'll be, a lot more than us not even, at least for me, it wasn't even a discussion of if I was having a bad day to sit down with my parents and talk to them about it. That wasn't a thing. Nothing against my parents. They were doing what they saw their parents do. Mm-hmm. But it's like how exciting it is to change that now and have different spaces.
Mm-hmm. And my parents did the very best they could. I mean, I wasn't beaten. I wasn't ignored. I was told I was loved. They weren't so lucky in some areas, So when my siblings, I'm one of 5, so when my siblings and I go, Mum and Dad, our conditioning, I'm just like, nah, man, we should be super grateful, because even the things that we didn't get, we get to become more conscious and more aware for our children. And as the collective consciousness is awakening, from my interesting point of view, I feel like we are shifting, we're waking up, where the paradigms are like shifting as the structures are breaking down, as we're starting to ask questions and realizing, oh, we can have it all without the hustle. It's really, really a really exciting time. So how do you feel about the shifts that are happening? Do you feel like we are going through a great kind of awakening, or do you feel like it's always been like this? Or I'd love to know your perspective.
Yeah. I get that there's a lot. The invitation, at least for me, the way that I perceive it is the invitation is there. And some of us are choosing it, and some will never, and some are on the fence. And to me, it's just getting louder. So, people can either see that loudness as a reason to run and cover up in the darkness, or a reason to run, to the light, so to speak. But I wonder what they will choose. I know what I'm choosing, and that's, the only thing I can do, and invite as many people as I can. But yeah, I get that there's a huge invitation right now. Mm-hmm. And I think that this COVID stuff has really been a big boost to that, in terms of not so much the COVID stuff itself, but the right and the wrong and the good and the bad and all of that. And there's just so much going on in the world. And at least here in Canada, there's a lot of right now, a lot of people saying, no, we're done. This stops now. And that's been really interesting to come from one of, I would say, we're Canadians are always called, they're so kind and they're so nice. And, that sort of energy of like, oh, we'll just sit back and take it. And we're kind of like, no more, this stops. And that's been really interesting to kind of see. And then again, still, of course, the division and being aware of it without playing with it and not making it right and wrong and all that crazy. Yeah.
And we're similar. I believe that Canadians and New Zealanders have got very similar energy. I don't know why, but I tell you what, every time I've traveled around New Zealand, and there's, different kind of transy places and stuff, you find the Canadians. Yo, we're going to be friends. Honestly, lifesavers in my early 20s when I was traveling around, absolute lifesavers. And, I know for here in New Zealand, we're having big convoys of cars. It's kind of like protesting, but it's different. It's a different energy. It's not a roar in front of the government. It's more like, woohoo, freedom, beeping. And it's quite breathtaking when you look at it and go, whoa, this isn't a division. This is a communion. I'm getting goosebumps and feel quite emotional when I talk about it. So there's this picture that's been going around of this man who was in the war, standing at his fence in all of his gear, his army gear, and with his badges on and stuff like that, watching the convoy go past, talking about freedom. And it's circulated throughout Facebook because all the New Zealanders are like, look, this is what New Zealand is about as a collective, is we came here as PAVE creators, as conscious creators, to create a new world when people coming from different, immigrating over, we are leaders, and we have them all around the world, obviously, but remember who you are. Remember your values. Remember you, not the judgment of others. I think it's huge. And it's a very exciting time, but of course there's a lot of chaos amongst that as well to create the change. Yeah. Yes. So can I just ask you just real quick on top of that, within this chaos that, I don't know if you have a clearing for this or anything like that, but within the chaos of change that is being created at the moment, we're in 2022 at the moment, big shifts are happening, with people that seemingly are, suffering or are suffering from lack of money, suffering with their body because they can't afford the fruit, they have to buy the chips, because I don't know about your supermarkets, but I tell you what, $500 doesn't go barely anywhere in New Zealand for food. I think we've got a similar currency. What would you say to those people, the people that are really super struggling in the economy at the moment with all this shifting?
Well, again, this is going to be one of those things that are just too easy, but it's something that people can memorize quickly, is just the question of what else is possible here that I've never even considered. Because when we go, let's use that example of going to the grocery store and we want, maybe we want to buy our family the healthy food, the fruit and the veggies and all those things, but we don't have that in our account. So the other stuff is what we're buying. If we look at that and we go, okay, well, I can't buy that, and this is horrible and wrong and bad. If you get the energy of that, it's just this contraction. But here's the thing. What is light is true, and what is heavy or contracted is a lie. So most people think when they're looking at that, something like that, and it's, oh, I don't have the money, I can't afford it, and they're feeling worse and worse and worse. They think they're feeling worse because it's true, but they're feeling worse because they're lying to themselves. And I don't mean you should go buy the stuff that you don't have in your account to pay for it. That's not what I mean at all. What's true is you're an infinite being. So go to the question of what else is possible here I've never even considered. And that will get you lighter, because there's always something else possible. So you're going to get lighter with that. In that lightness, you can now become aware of something. You might suddenly go, oh, wait, there's a discount bin of, a bruised fruit around the corner. Or maybe somebody, you think, oh, I wonder what they'd say if I asked to buy everything at half price. Like, does anybody ever do that? Like, I just wonder, as I'm talking about it right now, has anybody considered getting their groceries and asking them if they could pay half price? Like, all you can do is ask, right? Like, and I mean, I'm using a bit of a silly example, but try it. Like, who knows what they might say? So there's other spaces, but if we're in that heaviness, we'll never be aware of what else is possible. So that question of what else is possible that I've never even considered is a lightness, and that will allow those possibilities. No, I was going to say it'll allow them to show up, but the possibilities are always there. The lightness of it will allow you to be aware of them. And for anybody who wants more of these, I do pretty much in the last few weeks, I've started a reel a day on Instagram it's Glenyce Hughes at Glenyce Hughes. I'm sure she'll have the link below. And these are like 30-second money magic tricks. Every day I've been adding one as a reel on TikTok, on Instagram, doing some on TikTok too, but Instagram has been a lot more consistent, where you can just take that question or that tool for the day or the trick for the day and utilize it in your life to create that lightness. That's all you really need, is that lightness. The universe has your back. You've got the lightness, the universe can deliver, you'll become aware of it, and you'll be able to take whatever actions required. That's where the magic is. It's that heaviness that we think is true and real. It's not. but that's what really sticks us, because, if we're having a bad day and we join that heaviness and then we spin in that heaviness, suddenly that bad day turns into a bad week, which turns into a bad month, on and on. Whereas if you recognize the heaviness, choose something to get you back to the lightness. If you're in New Zealand, please go to the beach for me. Please go to the beach for me. For other places, whatever you need to do, ask the question, what else is possible? Doesn't even have to be money related. If you're having, a bad day at work, in your head, what else is possible here I've never even considered? You'll become aware of the possibilities, and that's where the magic is.
Beautiful. So it is playing with magic, and I know you've got a lot of magic stuff. So go check out Glenyce's website. Another thing, just to go on top of that, is I shifted my perspective about how people lived. So I like to live quite abundantly now, because I was always poor. I was really, really poor. So buying $100 hat, nah. It's only the last couple of years I've been able to buy more than one hat, even hats. Long story short, I've got an auntie and an uncle, and they live very, very frugally. So they are like 60s, 70s. So he's 70, she's like 68, right? They use the same towels from their wedding, from their engagement. They have got a brand new house. It's $1 million, very humble house, but it's in $1 million location. They literally have, they eat, so basically they spend $100 a week on food, which I spend that on a day, just going to the supermarket for snacks. And they eat from their veggie garden. They don't have meat every night. They water down their dark blue top milk. I used to think this was quite nearly like a stingy energy, until I started shifting my perspective, and now I'm in absolute awe of them. I know we're not meant to, go into any type of judgment, but I look at them and I go, oh, you are freaking geniuses. They are wealthy. They are happy. They are, they have faith, their own faith. The food is delicious, and it's like this ritual of getting out the pots and the pans and really honoring the food so deeply, not throwing it away. They never eat. They eat what is appropriate. They honor their food. They're growing. They don't waste anything. If there's bruised fruit, they cut the bit of bruised off, and then they'll stew it up. And I've been watching them, and now I'm in this honor, and I go, I'm so grateful for you showing me how to respect the earth. So there's just another random perspective. I'm not saying wasting food is bad. It goes to the earth. I'm not saying spending money is bad. None of it is bad. It's just a simple perspective of, wow, I'm going to honor this flannel that I've had, because it's still good. It's a material. Let's not get complacent about what we already have.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Yeah. And it really is just even honoring the other person. If that's the way they like to live, yay for them. And it may not be our way, but that's okay. That's their way. And our way is our way. And we can probably all, receive from each other in different ideas and ways of having it be, but there's no right or wrong with it. It just allows us to receive from it all.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being here in this juiciness. I love it so much. We're going to put things in the show notes, but how is the best way to reach you for those who are just like feeling super drawn to you? We'd love to make your incredible stuff available to them with ease.
Yeah, definitely head to my webpage. And again, you might want to look below, because it's a interesting spelling. So it's GlenyceHughes.com is my webpage. And then you can find me on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook at Glenyce Hughes on all of those. And then my podcast is called Tools to Create a Better Life. Those are also on my webpage too, or you can find them in your favorite podcast app.
Beautiful.
Yeah, all the places.
Thank you for being such a contribution to the world. And you have so many incredible free resources. And that's the thing. We can go as far and deep as we want to, with these tools. So yes. Thank you so much, Glenyce. Thank you, everybody. And we will see you soon. Bye.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap for today. Thank you so much for joining the Release Your Blocks podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love to hear from you. So please leave a review and tell me what your favorite takeaway from today was. There is so much more from where this came from. You can also find me at Holistic Energy Shifting on Facebook, where you can find more content, more coaching, and more guidance. Have a grand and glorious day, and I'll see you next time.